Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to the hopeful elect. This is your brother Dawah from the Men of Valor Campaign, Greenville, South Carolina, coming back with another video in sincerity and in truth, and Lord willing, it can be edifying. And as we can see, these nations are continuing to prepare for war. All right, we're in the time of World War III. All right, coming quickly. All right, which will end in nuclear Armageddon, if you will. Now, the entire world won't be destroyed because, as the scriptures say, the earth abideth forever. However, America, Babylon the Great, all right, and the land known as the State of Israel and surrounding areas in the Levant region, or this, aka the so-called Middle East, the Valley of Yahweh Shaphat, all right, the Valley of the Lord's decision or judgment will be annihilated off the face of the earth. All right, and we are seeing that these nations, including some of America's top adversaries, are preparing. All right, they're not backing down, and this is end time prophecy speaking. So let's get into this article. All right, it's a juicy one, so bear with me. From ZeroHedge.com, Iran says no limits on missile program after Europe demands it curbs reach. Okay, so it's basically they're asking them to limit how much. These damn Edomites are funny, man. Here it is. They can have missiles that can hit anybody at any time. They're the only ones that can have these missiles. Their enemies can't have them. And if their enemies do have them, they want to limit their damage. All right. That's not how war works, but whatever. It says amid UN snapback sanctions targeting Tehran, Europe has been calling for Iran to curb its missile program. But obviously, the country just came under unprovoked Israeli and U.S. attack last June and launched dozens of possibly hundreds of ballistic missiles on Tel Aviv and other locations in Israel. All right, that was part of that 12-day war. Our missiles will reach the range that they need to, a military official on behalf the Elite Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, has responded, according to Fars news agency. Deputy commander of the Katan al-Anbaya Central Military Headquarters, Mohammed Jafar Asadi, indicated Wednesday said Tehran would increase the range of its missiles to wherever necessary in order to do whatever it takes to defend the country. He described further that with the resources we have, we are 100% ready. Interesting. However, we will not be the first to start a war, but if anyone invades our country, we will respond decisively. And it's going to mention that, there's speculation that Netanyahu and them about to do another attack on Iran. All right, but see, they're not expecting, them to be defended. All right, according to end time prophecy, Iran or Persia has a very important ally. All right, we're going to get that. It says in particular, he responded to European demands to place more limits on the range of its missile arsenal by saying, "I can only say they were wrong to issue such demands." Mideast analysts have recently speculated that Israel could be preparing for another attack on Iranian missile and nuclear sites, though Netanyahu is unlikely to want to anger Trump. And Netanyahu, Bibi runs Trump, man. Okay. It says, or engage in any new strikes without his approval. Trump has held his truce deal, which ended the 12-day June war. It probably doesn't want to jeopardize it. They're going to do it anyway because the scriptures say that the least of the flock shall draw them out. We know these small hats are going to draw these nations into World War III. All right, and this could definitely be one of the catalysts for that. It's widely believed that Iranian missiles have a maximum range of 2,000 kilometers, which covers the distance to Israel, Iran's number one foe. But the Iranians are hinting at increasing this range. For example, missiles launched from the eastern half of the country, which are more protected from Israeli attacks, would of a necessity be extended in range. A recent missile test suggests that the Iranians are indeed moving forward with extending the ranges of their missiles, as the Washington think tank FDD observes. And I'll read through this. It says late last week, Iranians took to social media to post pictures and video of what appeared to be the plume or the high temperature exhaust gases of a ballistic missile in flight. The unpublicized nature of the launch by Iranian authorities, coupled with various images of the projectile's odd trajectory, led to a guessing game as to whether the test failed and what kind of projectile was deployed. Was this an older missile with a poor flight test track record, or a newer missile with a different warhead, a space launch vehicle, or as a parliamentarian alleged, an intercontinental ballistic missile? All right, and yeah, it's speculation that they tested an ICBM. More recent open source analysts indicate that the launch was an LSV test from known space launch pad in Samnan province, while the projectile's white plume points to the use of solid propellant, a type of fuel for missiles that Israel targeted in the past due to its military utility. Several angles of projectile's flight path, coupled with images of small bursts or smoke seen dotting the sky, hint at technical malfunction, namely combustion issues. But even a failed test provides Tehran with information about the performance and reliability of its projectiles, while also signaling a continued interest in growing its missile program following the 12-day war with Israel. Yeah, they're not going to back down. Okay, the way that war even went down, basically America was distracting them with all these different meetings, and then Israel just went and attacked them anyway. And then Trump came out and said that they knew that they were going to attack. So why would your enemy trust you, Esau? you know. It says, like Israel, the Islamic Republic is seeking to rapidly replace the firepower. Oh, actually, I read that. Slaki. Where we at? Oh, no, I didn't read that. It says, like Israel, the Islamic Republic is seeking to rapidly replace the firepower it lost due to missile exchanges with Israel this past summer. FDD continues. Beyond serving as the delivery vehicle for a potential nuclear weapon, Iran's ballistic missiles play a key role in the Islamic Republic's defense and security strategy, enabling it to deter and coerce adversaries. According to U.S. intelligence estimates, Tehran has long been home to the largest arsenal of ballistic missiles in the Middle East, most of which are road mobile and stored in underground bunkers dispersed across Iran. Prior to the 12-day war, Iran possessed an arsenal of roughly 2,500 to 3,000 ballistic missiles of various ranges and propellant types, as well as around 300 to 400 transporter erector launchers used to move and fire these weapons. After the war, Iran's launchers and missiles were cut by roughly half, with the TEL count now estimated at 150 to 200, an overall ballistic missile stockpile of about 1,300 to 1,500. Recent reports indicate that Iran is undertaking a sustained effort to restore its ballistic missile production facilities that Israel destroyed. Exactly. It says the Europeans led the way to impose snapback sanctions on Iran last week related to its nuclear program, leaving Tehran outraged. And so at this point, it is little incentive. It's like it has little incentive to conform to Western demands. That's the most important part, man. Okay. They did that fuck shit during the summer. So why would they listen? Why would they? They're going to prepare war. And once again, Europe, who's trying to put these sanctions on Iran, they're already dealing with a potential direct war with Russia via Ukraine proxy. So, the Europeans, NATO and the EU, you're not in good case right now. America, you're not in good case. Israel, you're not in good case right now. You've managed to piss off all of your enemies. Okay. Which they're your enemies for a reason. But now they're building themselves up. They're not going to, there's no sense of diplomacy left amongst, the West, so to speak, and these other nations, mainly of the BRICS. All right. It says, instead, it has every reason to want to bulk up its missile program for the next potential round of fighting with Israel amid continued tensions. Meanwhile, U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent says the Treasury is targeting Iranian weapons and procurement networks that help maintain its ballistic missile and military aircraft program in a new punitive U.S. action, right? The United States always trying to do some shit, okay? They got their hand in everything. So let's get this. This is Joel chapter 3 and verse 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war, right? We're in a time of war. We're not in a time of peace. All right, you go and ask the average everyday American if they know anything about what's going on. They're gonna say no. Okay, they don't know anything about outside of pop culture and sports. Okay, they thinking about the NBA season coming up. They watching football, college football, NFL and shit. They're distracted, and that was set up by design. All right, but see, we're not in that same darkness. Yeah, we watch sports and stuff, but we keep up with what's going on with world news because what we tied to prophecy. We're measuring the time diligently in itself, and these nations are preparing to go to war. All right, America and the Israelis have pissed the Iranians off. Okay, they have. The Americans and the Israelis have pissed off the Russians. The Americans and the Israelis have pissed off the Chinese. And all of these different nations, the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, they have linked up together, man. They've been doing joint naval drills. We've done videos on this, okay? And now that they had that 12-day war, and there's speculation that Netanyahu is about to go to war again, declare war on them again, best believe you're going to have Russia step in this time. You know, I believe through the Spirit. All right, they're going to be a guard unto them, like it says in Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, which I'm going to grab, real quick. But nonetheless, these nations aren't just going to stand idly by because both Russia and China both have assets, within Iran. All right, and trade relations and stuff. Okay, so they're going to defend their ally just like America's going to defend Israel. Okay, and that's where you get your least of the flock drawing them out. That's where you get Israel pulling all these nations into a world war that's going to be in the so-called Middle East. Okay, World War III, you might have different fronts. All right, but the main front is going to be this Levant region. All right, that's why Iran is so important in this because, like we read in that article, it has the largest military arsenal, all right, in the region. All right, it's not like, and now Pakistan has nukes and stuff, all right, but it's not like Afghanistan or Iraq and stuff like that where America was able to go in and destabilize the government. All right, Iran has been a fortress, all right, and even when they tried to destroy their nuclear facilities, they had already moved the uranium. So verse 9, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares and the swords and your pruning hooks and the spears. Let the weak say, I am strong, right? The money that you would take for your agriculture, you'd be invested in your military. This article that we just read proves that Iran is building up their nuclear, they're trying to they're testing nukes and stuff like that. I best believe they haven't stopped their uranium enrichment for a nuke. All right, who's to say that Russia and China have not at this point? Because the world saw how Israel and China moved, all right, and they showed their hand. So who's to say that Russia and China haven't given them nukes by now? All right, I saw an article that said that Russia was planning on building like 8 nuclear facilities or some shit in Iran. So that's major money. That's these nations beating their plowshares and the swords and their pruning hooks and the spears. And it says, let the weak say I'm strong because you leave it to the Americans and stuff. The Iranians are weak, all right, which they're not. They're the ancient Persians. They have that spirit in them, and the Lord is going to quicken that spirit within them. All right, but all these nations that have bent the knee to America, now they're standing up like, fuck you, dude. All right, that's what we're seeing through the Spirit. Verse 11, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither. Cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Yahweh-Shaphat. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Right? The Lord is going to gather these nations. And we're seeing World War III. All right, the catalyst for World War III already being, the stage is being set, so to speak. Verse 13, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is great, or the harvest is ripe. Come, get ye down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for the wickedness is great. Verse 14, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. So It's coming, man. All right. And let's grab this real quick and we'll close it out. All right. Let's just prove that Iran will have its allies. Okay. This is Ezekiel chapter 38 and verse 1. It says, "And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him." Okay. And this is modern day Russia. All right. And again, NATO and America has pissed off the Russians already. All right. To put them back in that old Soviet spirit via this war with Ukraine. All right. If you go into why this war even started, it was over, basically NATO made a promise that Ukraine wouldn't, join NATO, but they still pushed for it. And Russia said, fuck that, just to put it plainly. Verse 3, "And say, thus said the Lord power, behold, I am against thee, O God, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal." So the Lord they're Edomites, so the Lord is still against them, but he's going to use them. Verse 4, "And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws and will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords." All right, so the Lord has put that old Soviet Union spirit back on them, and that warlike spirit. And they've been at war for the last 2-3 years. They've been at war. They're battle tested. Have the Americans really been at war? No, they have been via proxy. All right, and that's why Pete Hegseth had that big meeting with the military generals, because they're getting ready for war. The nations of the earth are getting ready for war. All right, shit is about to get shaken up. And this war is going to end with burning and fueling of fire, man. It's going to end in a nuclear war, man. All right, now I know that scares the shit out of most people, but hey, it's inevitable, okay? Now, these elites even know, but they think they're going to be able to rise from the ashes. Nah, they're going to rise up and get chains slapped on them. But here's the point, verse 5, Persia, all right, modern day Persia is Iran. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, right? So they're going to have, they're going to add to their, military might, in aiding Gog and Magog, which is modern day Russia. Verse 6, Gomer and all his bands, which is Turkey, all right? And Turkey right now is a NATO member, all right? And they did something, which don't quote me on it because I sent it in the chat earlier, but they did some weird shit. But they're going to turn on NATO and they're going to actually join onto Russia. All right, the scripture is saying it right here. Prophecy is speaking right here. So at some point, which NATO is also going to hate the whore, which is America, burn her with fire. But regarding Turkey, at some point, they're probably gonna slide out of NATO, and they're gonna join unto Russia. It says the house of Torgamah in the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. It says, verse 7, "Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them." So that's what's going to go down. All right, Russia is going to be a guard unto Persia, unto Iran. It says, this goes into the destruction. Let's read it. Verse 9. Actually, let's jump to verse 10. Verse 10, it says, "Thus saith the Lord power, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought." Yeah, that evil thought is going to be to launch their missiles, man. The Lord is going to put it in their spirit to do this. Verse 11, "And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages," that's America. "I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates." Right, we don't have major bars and gates that protect the different cities. All right, it's the land of the unwalled villages, said plainly. Verse 12, "To take a spoil and to take a prey, and turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon all the people that are gathered out of the nations which have gotten cattle and goods that dwell in the midst of the land." But yeah, you can read further into that, man. All right, but this is major end-time prophecy speaking. All of this conflict that's going on is going to lead to America and the state of Israel being utterly annihilated off the face of the earth. Yeah, other places are going to be hit, but America's going to be completely destroyed. Israel's going to be cleansed, man, by fire, by nuclear fire. This is what everything is leading to. This is end time prophecy. And we don't have a whole lot of major prophecies left. We see that they're setting up this digital system. We see that the Charagma is coming, and once the Charagma is made mandatory, those nukes can fly any day after that, man. It won't be long. So the time is short, man. So stay prayed up, Akim. Lord willing, it was edifying as well as exhorting. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rukakudash, and double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to the hopeful elect. Till next time, Shalom.